Not taking responsibility, is that inherently negative or not? It's a trick question, so be careful. He's a PhD holder, so let's see how smart he is. See, he's thinking. He loves trick questions, it challenges his mind. Right?
Yes.
Surprising deep voice. Okay, why?
Well, when we do an action, either we create the results of it whether we own it or we don't own it.
Okay.
But if we're we must own our action. So if we're confronted and we say, "Oh no, but I didn't," and then then other things result.
Is habitual? Is there a difference between habitual irresponsibility and irresponsibility?
No, because doesn't it go in the cycle? It comes back and reinforces. It becomes habituation.
So if you don't know something and you're irresponsible, it's the same as if you know it and it's habitual, correct?
Yes.
Incorrect. So if you can transport it to somewhere in Africa and you're living in a hut and you're supposed to get the water from the river 50 kilometers away and you didn't do that, and you didn't know you had to do that because you're looking for the faucet, and then they say you're irresponsible. Are you? Do you collect the karma of being irresponsible?
No, you have to.
Do you collect the karma? Being irresponsible means pushing your weight on someone else and letting other people do something for you that you're supposed to do, and you don't care about the pain it creates them. Maybe double the work or double the time. So unknowing irresponsibility and habitual irresponsibility, is there a difference?
Well, if you break a law, you suffer the consequences. Whether you know or you didn't know, you still have to.
No. Unknowing irresponsibility and knowing and habitual irresponsibility, is there a difference? Yes. What is the difference?
Because you were never taught what is right or wrong.
Very good. And the other one is habitual irresponsibility.
You know, you do it again.
Correct. And habitual irresponsibility and unknowing irresponsibility is both harmful to the receiver. It is both harmful.
Yeah.
Which one would be more severe?
The knowing, the habitual
Correct.
one.
And why is habitual irresponsibility and unknowing irresponsible negative? Why does it incur negative result? Why?
Because it still causes harm.
Correct. Harm on what basis?
On the basis of the person you harm.
On the basis of a person who can feel harm.
Yes.
Right. So therefore, there's a difference between habitual irresponsibility and unknowing irresponsibility, correct?
Yes.
And it has negative karmic repercussions, correct?
Correct.
It has negative repercussions on what basis?
On the basis the other person is able to be harmed.
Correct. Another being is able to be harmed. If there's not another being that can be harmed, and it's habitual or unknowing irresponsibility, is there still negative karma?
No.
Everybody agree? Who agrees, raise your hand. Who doesn't agree, raise your hand. Some of you don't have hands. Okay. Because both is everybody's like, yeah, my conclusion, some of you don't have hands. What was the question? I forgot. What was the question? I forgot. You forgot too.
If there's no object to be harmed,
there's no receiver of the object of our irresponsibility, is there still negative karma accrued from being irresponsible, either intentional or unintentional? Unknowing or unknowing, sorry. Is there still negative karma that arises from that?
yes.
But you said no.
I've changed my mind. Upon reflection.
Upon reflection. Do you change your hairstyle upon reflection in the mirror? No. Some things you don't reflect. Okay. We like your hair. Tell me the difference. How is it when there's no recipient of harm of your irresponsibility, there's still negative karma that's accrued? How?
Because you create an action that you have to suffer the result.
But there's no
of.
one to receive that action, so how do you have to suffer? So if I slap you or I slap the curtain, the karma is the same?
But your
My motivation is to hurt a curtain?
no, you reinforce the imprint in your mind.
What's the imprint in my mind? To hurt curtains.
No, to let your anger out.
Okay. So if I slap a curtain,
And if there's an environmental, if a person's standing there, it might arise again.
Excellent. Now, therefore, whether there's an obvious, living, conscious recipient, I'm not talking about a plant, a conscious recipient that can feel pain, and you are irresponsible to them, either it's intentional or not, there's still karma. Correct? But if there's not a living recipient, and you're still irresponsible, you still collect negative karma, correct? Why? Because who are you harming now? That's right. How do you harm yourself when there's no outer recipient of your irresponsibility? How do you harm yourself?
Because you reinforce in your mind.
What are you reinforcing?
The imprint.
Okay, so if you reinforce the imprints in your mind, why is that negative? Why is that harmful?
Because if the right environmental cause comes along, you'll react in that way.
That's right. So therefore, if we are irresponsible, whether it is knowing or unknowing, there are still karmic repercussions. Which one will be heavier?
Well, knowing.
Why knowing heavier?
Because of your intention.
What are the two factors that arises from that? You've mentioned it already. It's negative because A and B. Only two factors.
Your motivation?
No. The person that's receiving the harm and your reinforcement that when you're reinforced, you'll harm more in the future. You understand? So therefore, knowing intentional irresponsibility is harmful. Unknowing, unintentional irresponsible is always harmful. Why? Because unknowing will lead to knowing if it's not stopped. So a person who is irresponsible and creates harm, setbacks, not following deadlines, not falling in with other people, and it's harming them. When it harms them, and it's intentional, that creates negative karma. Correct? So therefore, if a person views an irresponsible person in a negative way, is that subjective or objective?
Subjective.
Why is that subjective? The person is irresponsible.
But you don't know. I mean, you haven't looked deeper. Maybe you don't know.
Okay, we hang around with a person, go out with him for a year.
But isn't that you're imputing again?
Yes. At my level, I have only evidence to impute on. But from the side, for the sake of argument, from the person's side that's irresponsible, do they not create a greater harm because they allow other people to increase their imputation? So even if they do nothing and they just sit there and look pretty, do they not harm people around them? So therefore, a person who has vows to be responsible, and they're not responsible and they break their vows, just by not doing anything is very harmful. It's the biggest harm. Why? They allow other people to increase their imputations and their holdings and their negative use, and they don't let them practice. That's why people who break their vows, they're expelled from the monastery. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's how we learn in the monasteries. We interact and we talk. We examine. We don't just sit and lecture. We actually challenge and think. Sometimes we'll take this side, sometimes we'll take this side, sometimes we'll just take this side. It's called debate. We have to challenge. Why? When you challenge and you debate it out, just like Kendra and I just did, when you have come to a clear understanding, then from that is born faith. From faith comes practice and transformation. Practice is application of what you have learned. Comes transformation. And the transformation will be firm and strong and irrevocable, cannot go backwards when it's based on sound observation and knowledge. That's exactly how we do it in the monasteries. Much more complicated, of course. And very fast. Very, very fast. You have to go back and forth, back and forth.